We made you look at the papers, I hope, or we're about to make you look at the papers. That's a little Megan Trainor to start off your day at 15 minutes past 6 on 96.3 Nation FM. You're listening to The Morning Fix. My name is Mariam Bishar.
Most bankable host Brian Aseli. Asanteni sana for tuning in. Right now, we jump straight to the papers, and it's just a moment where Africa decided, you know what? We need to discuss climate change. And that's why we have the Africa Climate Summit, and it's happening, actually ongoing at the KICC. It was presided over by our president yesterday, and walikuwa nafungua. And of course, we had the Africa Youth Climate Association having their meeting that ended on Sunday. And this big conversation on what's really going down, most people don't understand what climate change is. I wish you had a bite by one of our member of parliament just talking about what climate change is.
You can name him, it's fine.
Jana Salasi aliulizwa maneno ya climate change, and then it became such a big problem.
Yeah.
But I believe that we've understood what the problem is, but we don't really understand the nitty-gritties that go into it.
True, and the fact that it's not a priority for most Kenyans, most people in the global south, I would say, because we have, I would say, quote-unquote, bigger problems with day-to-day, cost of living, no, when you're trying to find the basics. However, the effect of climate change will definitely make it harder to even, do whatever it takes, these day-to-day activities in the near future. So it's good to see that Africa is putting up a united front. There's a spread on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 of the Daily Nation about the Africa's Climate Summit. It talks about, of course, some of the things that are expected to come out of the Climate Summit. There's meant to be a Nairobi declaration, much like the Paris Climate Agreement. So basically that will sum up what we have decided to do in order to fight climate change after this summit is over, especially for African nations who will bear the brunt of climate change, even though we are the least polluters. Of course, for many young people, we're coming into an age where temperatures are increasing, more adverse weather events are happening, and there's no way to mitigate it unless we reduce global greenhouse emissions by about 50% in the next 30 years. And that's quite a big task.
Yes, it's quite a big task. And our president gave a recommendation that we need to tap into renewable power, which is also really commendable. So he opened, he actually spoke this at the opening of the Africa Climate Summit and gave his recommendations on what should be done to make sure that our resources are utilized, and how we need to use renewable resources to continue with the potentiality of curbing this. We've seen snow melting on our mountains. We've seen sea levels go lower or even higher. We've seen hurricanes, we've seen typhoons, we've seen most recently we've heard of El Niños and stuff like that.
Droughts as well. Yes. And this is caused basically by the carbon emissions, and the ozone layer is being affected day by day. The depletion of that serves a risk, and it might cause a lot of destructions on our environment. And also one of the recommendations on Business Daily is about how the indigenous families or communities have not been involved in the conversation, yet they face the wrath of the environment even further. And also during the summit, I heard that people were talking about how we should concentrate more on solutions, actual solutions, instead of the false solutions. Yes.
That
and the talks, the never-ending talks.
The never-ending talks. And these talks basically just bring about a conversation of, we will talk, we'll give solutions. They're really nice on paper. Nobody's going to take advantage of them apart from the companies that we were talking about yesterday. The companies that come into the country, they invest, but they don't pretty much invest in
anything renewable or climate friendly.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, they invest in things that actually harm the environment even more. So you can actually read page 11 to see the finer details on how the voice of the marginalized was missing at the climate summit, yet they are the most affected.
Absolutely. Hopefully the Africa Climate Summit leaves us with some things that are actionable in the fight against climate change. We're getting into some new music now with Highs and Lows by Prince and Gabriella Lee. Of course, we'll come back, talk a little bit more about stories making headlines. For our former judiciary registrar has been accused of meddling in a fake gold case. We'll tell you a little bit about that and about how 60% of small businesses are unable to repay their loans currently.
And Brian was involved.
Why am I surprised? Why am I shocked?
They play it first. Banging out those new tracks louder than